Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of League Chat with the Stat. We are finally here. Round one is just around the corner. Thank you so much for tuning in to a brand new episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the two-part series of the season previews that we went through. But guys, look, round one is finally here. We've waited so long and we are just going to get straight into it. I'm so keen to be able to discuss everything for round one. Who's in, who's out, where some of the players are that aren't named in the squad. We'll go through all of that. And we'll go through my Supercoach team. We'll be looking to go through this weekly with you guys. A lot of crazy selections that I tried to avoid making, but I have made. So we're going to go through that together as well. But look, we're here to discuss everything round one. The big round one preview of each team, who's named, who's out, what the goal is, and what we're expecting, and my tips as well for the upcoming season. Now, we're going to start off with the first game. The Panthers coming up against the Sea Eagles. Now, if you look at the side there, Dylan Edwards is at fullback. On the wing is Charlie Staines and Brian To'o. In the centres, Isaac Targo and Stephen Crichton. The halves, Jerome Luai and Sean O'Sullivan, taking the spot of Nathan Cleary, who is out for 3 weeks with a shoulder injury. Moving to the forward pack, at props, they got Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris, and Coruscant at hooker. In the second, in the back row there, Viliame Kikau, Liam Martin, and at lock, Isaiah Yeo. On the bench, Mitch Kenny, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Lenu, and Matt Eisenuth. Coached by Ivan Cleary, and that'll be the side that will run out 1-17 on Thursday. Coming up against the Manly side at fullback, Tom Trbojevic, and what a year he had last year. On the wings, Jason Saab and Ruben Garrick. The centres, Brad Parker, Morgan Harper. The halves, Kieran Foran and Daly Cherry Evans. In the forwards, you got Tolfafo Sipley and Martin Tapau at prop with the hooker, Lachlan Croker. In the second row, you've got Hamali Olakawatu, who's recovered from that elbow injury. Ethan Bollamore starting in the second row there. And Jake Trbojevic locking the scrum. And on the bench, you got Tulatau Kula, who's making his debut, Carl Lorden, Sean Kepi, and Taniela Paseka. Now, the changes here, from what we can see, is that Josh Schuster has actually injured his ankle and he'll be out for the next few weeks. So Ethan Bullimore comes in and covers him there. And Dylan Walker is also out with an injury as well. So Tulatau Kula, who we saw in the trials, played pretty well. He'll get his debut off the bench. Look, in this game, taking a look at both sides, look, I'm going to go Manly for this game by 8 points. I know it's a bit of a tough one, considering that, Sean O'Sullivan has known Jerome Luai for years and their partnership has gone really well in previous times, but I just see Manly going too strong. I think Panthers will really, really lack that direction that Cleary offers, and I think it'll be Seagulls by 8 this week, and they'll be the first team to get the victory in this round. We've got the Raiders coming up against the Sharks on Friday, 6 p.m. Fullback Charles Nico-Klokstad. On the wings, the return of Nick Kotrick and Semi Valame. And the centers, James Schiller, who makes his debut, taking the spot of Sebastian Chris, who's copped COVID, and Jared Croker, who's been dropped, and Matthew Tomoko in the centers. In the halves, Jack Wyden and Brad Schneider, another player who's looking to make his NRL debut. In the forwards, you've got Josh Papali'i and Joseph Tapine with Josh Hodgson at hooker. In the back row, you've got Hudson Young and Corey Harawira-Naira, and at lock, Elliot Whitehead. The bench, Tom Starling, Omri Gula, Adam Elliott, and Corey Horsburgh, coached by Ricky Stewart. Coming up against the Shark side, who are also missing a couple of players as well. At fullback, you got William Kennedy. On the wings, you got Sione Katoa and Matt Ikuvalu. In the centers, you got Jesse Ramian and Ronaldo Mulatado. In the halves, you got Matt Moreland and Nico Hines. In the props, you got Toby Rodolph and Brandon Hamlin-Ueli. Hooker, you got Blake Brayley, and in the back row, you've got Britton Nakora and Teague Wilton starting at 12, and Dale Finucane locking the scrum there. And on the bench, it's an all-forward bench. You've got Aidan Tolman, COC for Talakai, Royce Hunt, and Andrew Fafita, coached by, was meant to be Craig Fitzgibbon, but unfortunately, he's come down with COVID and being a close contact. So they'll be coached by Daniel Holsworth, Steve Price, and they'll be running the show there. A very interesting side, both sides there. They're missing a couple of players, like we discussed already. Jamal Fogarty is out of the side, going down with that injury, out for the next few months. So Brad Schneider will make his NRL debut. And James Schiller, as I said, makes his debut as well, with Sebastian Chris coming down with COVID and Jared Croker returning through via reserve grade, just trying to build up his confidence again with the stem cell surgery he had in his knee. And for the Sharks, like I mentioned, they've done a few positional changes. So Ronaldo Mulatado will start in the centers, which will bring Matt Ikuvalu onto the wing. And they've got Matt Morgan starting at 6. He's taking the spot of Braden Trindle, The reason for that is because Braden Trindle suspended for 2 games. And you got Dale Finucane locking the scrum. there. And the reason for that is because Cameron McInnes is out for a month with further complications to his knee. So he's going to be a month away or so. In this game, I've gone away as well, and I have tipped the Sharks. The reason I've tipped the Sharks for this one, I've tipped them by about 12 points. I don't think there'll be much in it. I think they've just got class in their backs and in their forwards. And I think with Brad Schneider starting in the 7 there and a bit of inexperience in the backs, I think it'll be the Sharks that will be able to run through all this game and take the 2 points here. So I've gone Sharks in this game as well. You got the Broncos coming up against the Rabbitohs on Friday night. Fullback for the Broncos, Jermaine Asako, taking the spot off Tessie New, who is injured his hamstring, will be out for the first few weeks. On the wings, you got Corey Oates and Sullivan Cobbo. In the centres, you got Tony Staggs and Herbie Farnworth. The halves, Billy Walters and Albert Kelly. And we'll get into the halves just a bit later. The forwards, you got Kenan Palacia and Payne Haas with Jake Turpin at hooker. In the back row, you got Kurt Capewell making his first proper appearance for the Broncos. Jordan Ricci and Patrick Carrigan locking the scrum. And on the bench, you got Ryan James, Reece Kennedy, TC Rabati, and Tyrone Roberts making his return to the NRL through the Brisbane Broncos. Coming up against the Rabbitohs side, named at fullback Black Taffy. The wingers, Alex Johnston and Tane Milne. Centers, Jackson Paulo, Campbell Graham. The halves, Cody Walker and Lachlan Ilias. The forwards, Tavita Totola and Mark Nichols will lead from the front with Damon Cook at hooker. In the second row, you got Kian Koloa Matangi and Jai Arrow starting at jersey 12 there. Locking the scrum there, Cameron Murray. And on the bench, Jacob Host, Saliva Havili making his first appearance for the Rabbitohs. Thomas Burgess and Michael Cheekham, who's as well making their first appearance for the Rabbitohs. Now, for the Broncos, they are missing a few players. Tessie New has gone down with that hamstring injury. He'll be out for the first few weeks. You've got the halves. There's a lot of complications here with the halves. Adam Reynolds has come down with COVID, so he won't be playing on Friday night. You got Tyson Gamble, who's come down with COVID as well, so he'll also not be available. Tamari Martin was named on an extended bench alongside Ezra Mam, and so they have gone with Billy Walters and Albert Kelly. I don't think that would have been the first chosen halves, but I believe that that's where they've gone for this week, and they'll see what they can come up with against the Rabbitohs side, looking to make amends for the grand final last year and looking to have a big year as well. If you look through the forwards of the Broncos as well, you can see as well that you've got Thomas Flegler. He's out for the first 4 weeks of the season due to suspension. And Kobe Hetherington also came down with COVID as well as Corey Pay, which is why Tyrone Roberts is in the side. So Brisbane are missing a handful of players. And for the Rabbitohs, Black Taffy, again, is that fullback with Control Mitchell suspended for the first 2 weeks. Everything else in that back line seems to be spot on, and even in the forwards there. So they've got a pretty near full side named for this game. And I've gone the Rabbitohs comfortably. I think with the loss of the players that Brisbane have, I think the Rabbitohs will take advantage of that. And I think they'll look to make a big impression for their first game of the season. So I want to go Rabbitohs this game as well. Saturday, you got the Roosters coming up against the Knights. Fullback for the Roosters, James Tedesco. On the wings, Daniel Tupou and Paul Momorowski. In the centres, Billy Smith and Joseph Manu. In the halves, Sam Walker and Luke Keary. So excited to see this combination finally playing together. In the forwards, you've got Jared Weaver-Hargraves and Lindsay Collins, with Connor Watson coming in at 9. Angus Crichton and Satilia Tupanua fill out the spots in the back row, with Victor Radley locking the scrum. And on the bench, Drew Hutchinson, Fletcher Baker, Nat Butcher, and Siasewa Tokiaho. For the Knights, at fullback, you've got Callum Ponga. On the wings, Dominic Young and Inari Tawala. In the centres, you've got Dane Gagai and Bradman Best. In the halves, you've got Jake Clifford and Adam Clune. So that's going to be a very interesting combination. See how them two go. The forwards, Dave Clemmer and Jacob Saifidi, leading from the front. That hooker, Chris Randall. In the back row, Tyson Frizzell, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, and Kurt Mann will lock the scrum. On the bench, Phoenix Crossland, Mitchell Barnett, Leo Thompson making his debut, and Jaya Momoisea getting a run on in the jersey 17. Looking at the Roosters side, they are missing a couple of players. Joseph Sawali, not back from his injury, won't be back for another few weeks. So he'll be missing from the side. Taking a look, Sam Verrills, who we've just found out he's actually broken his thumb. He will be out for the first 4 weeks of the season. So Connor Watson will fill in at hooker for that period of time. And that's all clear on the Roosters end. The majority of the team is back from injuries. But for the Knights, like I mentioned earlier, Jaden Brayley has gone down with an Achilles injury. So Chris Randall will be filling in for most of the year. So when you look at these two teams, definitely thinking the Roosters will win this one. I just think that they've got a lot more class and they were looking to put all their combinations to work. Well, I think the Knights do have a bit of a chance. I think they're going to be missing, Jaden Brady's direction out of dummy half. And so I think that the Roosters will come out with this one on top, and I think they'll do it comfortably as well. But the Warriors are coming up against the Dragons. At fullback for the Warriors, Chanel Harris-Tavita. On the wings, Daniel Buteni-Zelezniak and Marcelo Montoya. In the centers, Viliami Vailea and Rocco Berry. The halves, Cody Nikorima and the return of Sean Johnson back to the Warriors side. The forwards, Adam Fanua-Blake and Bunty Afoa with Wade Egan at hooker. In the back row, Ewan Aitken, Elisa Katoa and Josh Curran locking the scrum. On the bench, Jess Tavaga, Ben Murdoch-Misila, Aaron Penne and Bailey Sirinen, with Aaron Penne making his first appearance for the Warriors apart from the trial. Versing the Dragons at fullback, Tyrell Sloan. On the wings, Cody Ramsey and Mikaeli Ravalawa. In the centers, Moses Sully and Zach Lomax. In the halves, Talatawa Mone, partners Ben Hunt at 7. The forwards, Blake Laurie and Aaron Woods are the props at hooker, Andrew McCulloch. And in the back row, Jack Bird and Jaden Sewer making his first appearance for the club, with Jack DeBellin locking the scrum there. On the bench, Moses Mbai making his Dragons debut, Francis Molo making his Dragons debut, Josh Kerr and Jack Kuchevsky also making his Dragons debut. So you can see here the few notable changes here made by both sides. Reece Walsh is suspended for one match due to the off-field incident last year, so Shino Harris-Tavita will fill in at fullback. And I believe that will be the only change in the back. In the backs there, in the forwards, you got Matt Lodge, who is still suspended for the next few weeks from an incident last year, and Toe Harris is still returning from that ACL injury. So that's the changes there for the Warriors. And if you look at the Dragons here, their backs, everyone seems to be in tip-top shape, and it's their forwards. George Burgess will get some time in New South Wales Cup to come back through and to just build confidence in his hip. And Tariq Sims are also not featured in the side. I know he had a bit of a hamstring niggle or knee niggle, so he will be missing from the side. And they've made it very clear with Tariq Sims that he can look for another club. So there's a potential chance we may not see a lot of Tariq Sims for the Saints unless injuries occur for both sides. I'm going to go Dragons this game. I'll go Dragons by 14. I think they get the job done over the Warriors. I think the Warriors will really miss Reece Walsh at the back. And I think the Dragons can get the job done on Saturday night. The next game on Saturday night is the Tigers coming up against the Storm. For the Tigers, fullback is Dane Laurie. On the wings, David Norfoluma and Ken Momalo. In the centers, James Roberts and Oliver Gildart from England making his Tigers and NRL debut. And the halves, Jackson Hastings will partner Luke Brooks. Alex Toa and Stefano Utoikamanu will lead from the front. And at hooker, you got Jake Simpkin with Jacob Little obviously missing for the first few weeks with a PCL injury. In the back row, you got Kelma Tuolagi and Luciano Leilua in the back row there. And at lock, Joe Offahengawi. Off the bench, you got Tyrone Peachy making his club debut, Luke Garner, Zane Musgrove, and Alex Seyfarth. And now the Storm. Fullback Ryan Pappenhausen. On the wings, George Jennings and Xavier Coates making his club debut. In the centers, Raymond Smith and Justin Olam. In the halves, Nick Meaney, Jerome Hughes. The forwards, Christian Welch, and yet to be named the replacement for Jesse Bromwich, who's come down with COVID. And at hooker, Brandon Smith. In the back row, Felice Kafusi, Kenneth Bromwich, and Josh King making his club debut as well. And on the bench, Tyron Wishart, Jane Nikorima, Trent Loiro, and Nelson Osofa Solomona rounding up that side there for the Melbourne Storm. So for the Tigers, like I mentioned earlier, Adam Dwyer, he's out with an ACL injury. And like I also mentioned, Jacob Little is out for the first few weeks in the coverage there of Jackson Hastings and Jake Simpkin. And for Storm, they get Pappenhausen back, which is a big plus. But Cameron Master suspended from that off-field incident last year, as well as Chris Lewis, who's not in the forward pack as well. So Nick Meaney's moved into the halves just for this week. And Brendan Smith and also Harry Grant is missing due to suspension as well. So Brendan Smith will fill in the hooker role for this week, and next week we'll go back into lock. In this game, still going to tip Melbourne. They are missing a few players, but I think they'll get the job done. And I just don't think that Tigers will have what it takes to come up against the Melbourne side, and I think they'll struggle most of the year. So Storm there, and that's comfortable there. And that's the Saturday night games. Moving over to the Sunday games, we've got the Eels coming up against the Titans. At fullback for the Eels, Clinton Gutherson. On the wings, Sean Russell and Bailey Simonson. In the centers, you've got Will Penasini and Wonga Blake. In the halves, Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses. The forwards, you've got Reagan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo with Reid Marnie at hooker. In the back row of Sean Lane, Isaiah Papali'i, and Ryan Madison. And on the bench, Makahesi Makatoa, Oregon Kafusi, Ray Stone, and Jake Arthur. Coming up against the Titans, at fullback, Jaden Campbell. On the wings, Philip Sammy and Corey Thompson. In the centers, Brian Kelly and Patrick Herbert. In the halves, Alexander Brimson and Toby Sexton. In the forwards, Moriaki Fotuaika and the debutant of Isaac Liu for the club, and Aaron Clark at hooker. In the back row of David Fafita, Bo Firma, and Tino Fa'asumala-Aui. And the bench, Will Smith, Sam Lozoni, Jamin Jolliffe, and Kevin Proctor. And they are coached, as you can see here. Lost the name. Justin Holbrook. They'll be coached by Justin Holbrook. Just lost my name there. For the Eels, like I mentioned, Hayes Dunster is out with the ACL, PCL, and MCL injury, ruling out for the year. Micah Sevo is also coming back from an ACL injury. And those are the injuries to the backs. And into the forwards, Nathan Brown is coming back from a hip injury. So that's why Ryan Madison is locking the scrum there. And also interesting to see Bryce Cartwright not named in that side as well. And two different utilities in Ray Stone and Jake Arthur. I'm expecting a couple of changes there. And for the Titans, they got a full back line. Alexander Brimson is actually in doubt with an ankle injury. If that's the case, it looks like Will Smith will come into the halves. And there's a good chance that Tanner Boyd will come in and fill in a spot in the Titans side. An interesting choice here by the Titans. Jared Wallace was their best prop last year, one of the best forwards last year, and didn't even get named on the run-on side. Very interesting stuff. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looks as if we could be potentially seeing Jared Wallace on the outer. Now that he's been quartered by the Dolphins, but I think if we're going on form, I think it's a bit disappointing seeing, Jared Wallace not in that side, especially how he went last year and how instrumental he was for the club last year. So must be a very interesting reason as to why he wasn't named. There must be an injury or something I'm not too sure about. But yeah, very interesting to see Jared Wallace not named in that side. In this game, I've gone the Eels. And I think the Eels will do it comfortably at home for the first game of the year as well. And in the last game, the Cowboys are coming up against the Bulldogs. For the Cowboys, fullback is Hammer Tabuai Fido. On the wings, Kyle Felt and Murray Tuolagi. In the centres, Valentine Holmes and Peter Hiku making his club debut. In the halves, Tom Dearden and Chad Townsend making his club debut as well. Another guy making club debut in the forwards is Jermaine Tunua-Brown with Cohen Hess and Reece Robson at hooker. And then the back row of Halem Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, and Jason Taumalolo. On the bench, Ruben Cotter, Jordan McLean, Mitch Dunn, and Tom Gilbert, coached by Todd Payton. And the Bulldogs name their side. Fullback is Matt Duffy. On the wing is Jaden Ockenbaugh, not happy about, and Josh Adokar. In the centres, Braden Burns, Brent Naden. In the halves, Matt Burden and Jake Averillo. In the forwards, you got Luke Thompson and Paul Vaughan with Jeremy Marshall-King at hooker. And the back row of Jack Hetherington, Tavita Pangai Jr. and Josh Jackson at lock. And in the interchange bench is Bailey Biondi-Odo, Corey Waddell, Max King, and Chris Patolo. Max King making his club debut, as well as Matt Duffy, Brett Naden, Braden Burns, Josh Adokar, Matt Burden, Paul Vaughan, and Tavita Pangai Jr. So 7 club debutants here that are named for the Bulldogs. Now, for the Cowboys, they look pretty good here. They've dropped Jack Granville and they've dropped Scott Drinkwater as well. And also didn't name Corneli Lumelu, Dejan Arce, Ben Condon, Brendan Elliott, Griffin Nemi. All these players that have featured last year are not named. And for the Bulldogs, lots of changes here. Obviously, with a pretty much a new side, but Jaden Ockenbaugh on the wing is an atrocious decision, considering how poor he's been when he came back last year, and just over the offseason he's been dreadful. A bit shocked that Braden Burns was put in at centre over Aaron Schopp. I'd be pretty filthy if I was Aaron Schopp. I think he's been playing some good football, so interesting coaching decision there. Jake Averillo is still our number 7. At this point, it just seems like Trent Barrett is really digging himself a big grave that he can't really dig himself out of. And then the forward pack, Jake Hetherington at second row. I'm still not sure. Still don't know if I like it. I think it's better than Corey Waddell. I think Corey Waddell sucks. I don't think he's that good of a player, and the rest of it seems pretty good. But look, it's very hard to choose. This game, I think I'm going to go the Bulldogs. Always, I'll back them no matter what. But if you're a betting man at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, I think for those of you doing your tips and you want to put your tips in, Cowboys would be the team to definitely tip this week against the Bulldogs. Well, that's all the news from around the different teams and the lineups. Now getting into our Supercoach team. Now, it has taken me so long to get this right. I don't even know if I've got it right. I'll still be sweating over it even when it's picked and locked in and there's not much I can do about it. But this is what I've done. So we'll start from the top. We'll start from the hookers. I've selected Harry Grant at 644,000. I think he's just the best hooker. even though there's really tempting to go Damien Cook, even though he's going to bring back more of his running game, which I'll just have to wait and see how he goes. And Chris Randall, obviously taking the spot of Jaden Bradley this year. He'll get a good 4 months in and should earn a decent price rise over the coming months. My forward pack, I've gone Payne Haas and Adam Fanua-Blake. Payne Haas, I don't have to sit here and explain why. He's just the best forward in the comp, and he somehow brings that into Supercoach as well. Adam Fanua-Blake is a devastating forward, gains big meters, plays big minutes as well if required. Very good in defense and great in attack as well. So I've gone with 2 attacking props there. I've got Josh King off the bench at 255,000. I think is pretty good. I think he'll maintain his spot on the bench, maybe get a couple price rises and be a good upgrade option later on. And Jairo Momosia, I've gone 205,000 off the bench. Can't really go wrong there. Hoping me to make like maybe 60, 70,000 I'll be happy with, and then probably sack him off later. The second row forwards I've picked and lock. I've gone with Angus Crichton, who'll be playing 80 minutes for the Roosters. His form last year was fantastic, and I expect him with all the players back on deck to have a similar year. Ewan Aitken, loved him when he played in the second row and played at 80 minutes as well, so I'm expecting more of that at 486. I'm pretty happy with that. And I've gone Jai Arrow, a bit of a point of difference player here. I'm expecting 65 to 70 minutes from Jai Arrow, but I'm expecting some good attacking and defensive stats. So for those who remember him back in his time in the Titans, he was someone that was very reliable playing lock. So I'm expecting him to bring some of that form back. And on my bench, I've gone Ethan Bullimore at 280,000, dual position, front row, second row. I've gone with Ethan Bullimore to start the year. I think he'll be there for at least the next 3-4 weeks before Schuster comes back. That'll earn me a good maybe 50, 60K as well in price rises, hopefully, pending on his stats. Kelmo Tuolagi at 253,000 starting for the Tigers. Too crazy not to jump on that. And I've gone Maverick Geyer, who will definitely get first grade opportunity at some stage this year. My halfbacks, I've got Nathan Cleary. No, he's not playing for the first 3 weeks, but at 950,000, I had to bring him in. He's just too good of a player to miss out on. So I've brought him in, and my backup halfback is Brad Schneider, who's getting a debut for the Raiders. It's a risky buy, this one, considering that you've got Matt Frawley and you have Sam Williams on the hinges as well. But look, Ricky Short will give him a good 4 or 5 games, I believe, so they should earn a couple of price rises there. So keen for that. And my 5-8s, I've gone Sean Johnson at 460, back at the Warriors. Probably won't happen much this week, but I'm expecting a lot of magic from him. Expecting a lot of try assists. I'm excited to see how he'll go with Reece Wash at the back. So at 460, I had to jump on Sean Johnson. And Lachlan Ilias is an obvious choice for your 5'8" and or halfback. He's dual position there at 205,000. Will be there most of the year, if not the whole year. So very easy choice there. I've gone very thin on my backs in my centers and wings. I've gone very, very thin. I've gone Zach Lomax. Missed a lot of last year. At his best, he's priced around 700,000. So to get him at a 300,000 discount at 496 is pretty solid. Goal kicker for the Dragons, has great attacking stats, and I think he's primed for a big year. So I'm backing him to kind of keep the center wings solid. Isaac Targo, starting for the Panthers at 287K, dual position, center wing, second row. So looking forward to seeing the impact he can have in the centers and looking to see some attacking stats from him. Talatau Amone, would be crazy not to put him in. Starting 5'8" at 284,500 alongside Ben Hunt, guaranteed 80 minutes. Great to put him in the centers. Had to jump on that. Will Penasini at 255,000. We saw just what he was capable of last year, and with the full preseason under his belt, I think in starting the year, look, he'll definitely be someone I'm looking forward to seeing get some good attacking stats in. And on my bench, I have gone Viliami Valea from the Warriors, 205,000 starting cheapie. Had to jump on it. Tolatau Kula, I know he is going to be getting some first grade at some stage. I think he's just one injury away in the backs for a call-up. So here's someone I've put in there. And Josh Schiller, I don't know much about him. You're probably going to get the one game, but I'm going to keep him on my side anyway and get him to start this week and keep him on the bench. And my fullbacks, I have gone Ryan Pappenhausen as my captain. Against the Tigers, it's a very easy choice. I can't see the Tigers doing much. I think Pappenhausen will just run amok against them. And on the bench, I've got James Tedesco. I tried to fit in Tom Trbojevic. It just became impossible, and I feel like I'm going to regret it. I'm not going to sleep well knowing that I've made this decision. But that's my team. That's what I'm going to go with. We're going to discuss this weekly. We're going to go through the changes, why I think some players are suitable, why I think some aren't. So that's going to be very interesting, considering I'm in a couple of paid leagues, and the boys will probably be watching and seeing that I've already made a lot of decisions based on that. But look, thank you so much for joining me. It was just a quick one today. a quick episode this week just to go through all of the round 1 teams and to just go through my Supercoach side. But look, as I said, very exciting times. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get on Supercoach if you're very interested in playing fantasy football. It's the best thing you'll do. It's very stressful, but it makes you enjoy the footy a lot more and definitely stresses you out. Like just a reminder of that tipping comp. I partnered up with Fanzo to do a tipping comp. Now, a bit more information on that. Basically, we're trying to bring back the old school feel of going into the pubs and into your local sporting venues and putting in your tips. And again, it's sponsored by VB as well. So going, guys. We're going to chuck up that photo once again for you to download the app and follow the prompts. You can join my comp at any time this year. Under the code League Chat. So we're running a tipping comp on that, which is pretty exciting. So make sure you're a part of that as well. And don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, share it around, and let everyone know that we're back in business. And look, I'm so excited. The footy is a couple of hours away. I'm pretty keen to get into it and just to see how this year pans out. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As I said, if there's anything you want us to add or you want guests to jump on, email us at leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com. And like I said, hit me up on my socials and we'll be able to get something happening. Guys, thanks for tuning in once again. You have yourselves a good one. Enjoy the footy this weekend and we'll be back soon with a new episode. See you guys. Take it easy.